amateur presentation.
Welcome back to another Untitled movie review from TIFF 22. I am one of your hosts, Matt Rohrbeck. Alongside, he's allergic to tomatoes, but he is tomato meter approved, Eric Marchin.
Matt, I'm a sad panda.
Is that a reference to the movie? Or?
No, South Park. Because you've been making a lot of South Park references recently.
No, I did. I tweeted out
The sad panda.
Yeah, I know Sad Panda. I know all the South Park stuff. I knew what you were referencing. I just didn't know what it had to do with Triangle.
I just wanted to throw you off a little bit.
Yeah, you did. No, I have been tweeting how South Park is, or Hot D, House of the Dragon.
Or House of D, the David Duchovny directed movie with Robin Williams.
Sure. We're losing it today. Today we are reviewing Ruben Östlund's Triangle of Sadness as it has its TIFF premiere right behind us.
David Duchovny calls his house
House of D? We're literally
D?
sitting outside of the theater. No, shut up. God, you're throwing me off so much. Triangle of Sadness having its premiere at the Princess of Wales as we speak right now, as we're sitting out here.
Yes, your wife Nevis is in the screening, and hopefully...
She's been drinking a lot of wine. I'm hoping that scene on the cruise ship during the storm doesn't make her hurl everywhere, because I thought about it.
Yeah, or someone comes in and thinks it's a screening a Bullet Train.
Yeah, I also thought it was perfect. We've gone into the Visa screening, or the Visa lounge at the Princess of Wales a couple times, which is, I think, quite apt for this movie.
Yeah, ironic in a way.
Yeah, and even a theme that we've been seeing a lot of at TIFF this year. There's a couple themes lately. It's
anti-capitalism.
Being one, and a love of cinema and an ode to cinema, and the movies is the other one, and directors doing their own childhood stories or whatever. Anyways, Ruben Östlund, a filmmaker that I think we both like quite a bit.
Yep.
We were both pretty pumped for this one. I saw Force Majeure, just took me by surprise back in 2013, right? 13?
2014. It was the year that Birdman came out, because I remember going to the after party at the Critics' Choice Awards the first year and seeing Ruben Östlund drink like a fish. That man... Oh boy, and you've interviewed him.
We watched Force Majeure together.
Yes.
Remember, we watched it at my apartment, I remember, on a screener.
Yeah.
And I interviewed him once. Great dude. Showed me a YouTube video of the accordion music he used in Force Majeure. It was just some kid on the accordion on YouTube that he used.
Then won the Palme d'Or for The Square.
And then won
the Palme d'Or for Triangle of Sadness.
So the dude is obviously a very, very talented guy. This is a movie we saw a couple weeks ago now. At this point, so
which kind of almost now feels like a year based on how many movies we've seen.
Probably 21 movies since, because it was one of our first ones.
And it was a big one as well. And I think before we start, we have to address that. Charles B. Dean did pass away, and it's we don't want to speak out of ill in terms of referencing the comedy of the film or the humor. So we're going to be very respectful in that, and when we review it, like, we're looking at it as both a comedy but also as kind of a stance on anti-capitalism, as we've been talking about at the beginning of the show. So we wanted to make sure that we did acknowledge that, and I think the news broke sadly as we were about to watch the
literally
film.
Was about to come on, and you showed me that, and I was just like, fuck.
Yeah.
So it did, I think, affect us a little bit watching it, because it was so fresh in our minds, and like, at least it did for me personally.
And she's a co-lead. It's not like she's like a supporting part, because this is essentially an ensemble film that's told in a kind of vignette chapter-based story, where you kind of start with these two model influencer couple with Harrison Dickinson and Charles B. Dean, and sort of their relationship, and then
it does mostly follow them, even though other characters come in.
And it does take some time to get to the actual $250 million pleasure cruise, where it features a group of predominantly white, affluent capitalists, world leaders,
weapon monger.
weapon sort of tech people,
Warmongering.
warmongers, and then also tech and gadget developers and things like that. And so it's kind of like the most disgustingly wealthy
Rich,
people going on this cruise that basically becomes a nightmare.
Yeah.
And without giving anything more away, it kind of like, again, we talked about this a little bit with the Banshees of Inisherin, where a lot of it is allegory and metaphor and playing with archetypes of like the different levels of capitalism and class structure, but class structure within the wealthy. So it's like you have these influencers that come on this ship that didn't have to pay for
Russian
it.
oligarchs that we haven't mentioned.
Woody Harrelson as a ironically Marxist captain, which is kind of funny. Although he's not in it that much, which I was kind of
really
surprised
quite
by.
a small part.
And it's kind of like the balance of that and where it goes. It's again, like, I don't know what is spoiler and what's not spoiler.
Yeah, we'll try to dance around stuff, but yeah.
But there's one character, Abigail, who comes into it quite later, even though she is somewhat present in the second act as one of the ship's employees working in terms of like
the cleaning
crew. And it's interesting how we don't really see her, and she kind of remains invisible intentionally, with the exception of one moment, and then in the third act becomes an important part of the whole film.
I mentioned that this was like a theme that we've seen a lot of lately, and even at TIFF this year, we have the menu, which I think kind of does a similar thing that this movie's doing. Triangle of Sadness. There's another one that tackles like capitalism, and I forget what I'm thinking.
It's been 30 movies ago.
But there's lots of movies that tackle this.
I mean, Parasite,
subject.
Obviously, most recently, in like when I say recently, a few years ago now. But like that film really seemed to kind of
and does it perfectly almost. I'm gonna look through, but I'll kick it off of being like, I had a great time with this. Like, I think, again, Ruben Östlund's not going to be one of those guys that everyone loves. Like,
he's an acquired taste.
Yeah, it's vulgar at times. It's very in your face. It's kind of what we talked about, that, like, even in its metaphors, it's very blunt. It's very like a sledgehammer to your face. Like, I kind of said that when we talked about Adam McKay's what the fuck was his last movie that you hated and I didn't
Don't
mind? Look Up. Where I think this does a much better job and is still very in your face, and it hits you over the fucking head with it over and over and over and over and over again. But I do think it's very funny. I think it's very engaging. I think its characters and performances are great, and I just like, he's just one of those guys that I see. His movies are nothing like other things that I'm seeing, and they're both very European, but are not European. I guess he's Swedish, like Nordic, I guess. But I don't know. It's this weird sense of humor and this bombastic filmmaking, this maximalist filmmaking that we bring up a lot lately too, that I kind of fuck with. Like, it has all those elements that I kind of really love. Like, I'm a sucker for chapter-based storytelling a lot. I know it's overdone, but like when it's done well, I do really like it, just even from a style over substance standpoint. I just love the style of that. And yeah, I'm really into maximalist filmmaking lately, and I just because it is a trend that's happening. But I kind of vibed with this, and I know we're being kind of cryptic. One, I saw it a couple weeks ago. Two, I think this is a movie that you should just go in knowing the basics of, and then just kind of ride it out.
Yeah, there's a centerpiece to the film that when it happens, you'll kind of be it hits you hard. But yeah,
intentionally too.
Yeah,
like it's. Yeah. I survived that moment because I started to go, oh.
You feel like you're with the characters, and it's very immersive visceral. In that sequence.
Imagine that in 4DX.
Oh God.
The smells they pump in, and like your seat,
or they're throwing at you, even
just rocking back and forth as that happens.
Yeah, it works on that level quite well. There's a couple really good sight gags. One involving a briefcase and a reveal that I thought was quite funny.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Russian.
Is it Oligarch?
Oligarch, who's a manure entrepreneur, who's amazing. He was also the Elle Fanning's singing coach in Teen Spirit. He steals a lot of the film, but so does
really
Dolly
good,
DeLeon, who plays Abigail. in that third section of the film. I think one of the things I like the most about Ruben Östlund, like the Safdie brothers, is he's really good at making you feel both anxiety and frustration in equal measures, and does it in a way that kind of is just very
still entertaining.
Well, simplistic. Like
Sure.
he'll give like just a small thing about like the way the sound of a windshield wiper.
Oh, you mentioned or turning off a lamp in a hotel
or trying
room.
to trying to turn off a lamp, or like an elevator closing. Like he finds certain elements, whether they be technological or something that's intervening between the characters, and that's kind
relatable, and it's not just referencing it. He still does it in a funny way.
And it usually comes between characters that are either having a meaningful conversation or debate, or just again kind of adding to the already fraught tension that has been building over the course of a scene. And there's just something about his sound design that kind of really plays into that quite well, but also his editing, where like I've read and listened to some of his interviews where he'll talk about like how he shoots everything in wide, and then in post-production he'll do zooms and close-ups, digital zooms.
Interesting.
And that's how a lot of Force Majeure was developed. So like he shoots a lot of stuff in wide, and I think my one criticism, I've kind of softened a little bit on it, just because I think it is a little too long, and emotionally speaking, you're never invested in the characters because they are all archetypes,
and they're all unlikable too for the most.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind unlikable characters. I think as long as they're interesting and complex and well written and well acted.
But I think that's something, again, like we're not going to review the menu until you see it later after the festival, but in these types of movies, I feel like that happens quite a bit.
Yeah.
Where
they're paper thin, they're an idea more than they are a fully fleshed out individual. Where like you're watching this and you're kind of feeling, okay, well this is this version of, you know, wealth and, you know, obsession and obesity and just gluttonous behavior and that kind of thing. And like it's like all about more and consuming and just like it's the point it's getting across is very shallow, but at the same time it's like it's not untruthful in its depiction of how, you know,
these people are, or
capitalism works both on, you know, the scale that we're familiar with, which is in North America, and the scale of international wealth and greed, where it's like,
and in other situations too.
there's a level of disgustingly wealthy that it's just like it's just too much, and like what is that level? There's a class
structure to everything too, right?
Yeah,
like
and how that changes when things go awry,
and socialism and stuff gets brought up, and like even
the Marxist stuff, with Woody
and like
Harrelson,
which is all very in your face, like I mentioned, and blunt, and then we're being cryptic, but in that third act, it's not interesting, but it's just obvious how they use a lot of that stuff and showcase why this group of people would either act this way or how the tables are turned on them and things like that. So and conversations that are brought up earlier, like get put into practice in this situation, or you'd think they would all come together, but it just ends up being a different class structure, even if the tables have turned a little bit. So it is very obvious, and shallow is a good word, and
or superficial, but it also is representative
but
of,
it works,
you know, a lot of these characters, like, you know, being, you know, stereotypical like models, you know, things like that. Like there's even a little moment that's funny where it's like, you know, characters are told to move because more richer or affluent people are coming in to sit during this
and that's
runway
happened
show,
at
right?
TIFF this year, dude. I've talked to people where they got an email before their screening where they had orchestra street sheets, seats,
Ruben Östlund in the
like
streets,
good seats for a movie, and they were booted up to the balcony because they're like a technical issue or whatever, when it really means they needed more reserved seating or something like that. So it's funny, like it's funny that this movie, you know, won the Palm at Cannes, because that is the crowd that they're kind of roasting.
The second time he's won it too, which is still amazing.
And he just continuously roasts that crowd of people, and they just give him awards for it. And then even at TIFF, which is like on a lower level than Cannes, but still has something like the Visa Lounge that we're talking about, where you go get free alcohol and drinks and you feel better
and
than
Lind
everyone.
chocolate.
Yeah, Lindor chocolate and shit like that. So like it's ironic and funny that it's premiering at festivals like this, and it works on roasting some of the people that are paying the super money to go to these premieres and shit like that. that. So, and the menu, like, I'm curious to get your thoughts on the menu, because I think Triangle of Sadness does a more interesting depiction of all that. Like, I think it's even more shallow in the menu. Like, again, it still sort of works in that movie, but I don't know how you get super nuanced with this stuff, but Parasite would be probably a good example.
Yeah,
of that,
and
right?
Parasite is, I mean, they're both, neon movies in the US as well, where, like, you look at how I think Bong Joon-ho was able to really embed the character beats more and culturally specific to those moments in South Korea. So with that, it's very specific, where this is kind of more, again, of a kind of superficial kind of blanket statement on where the world is now and how it got there in the last 30 years or so. And again, like, even when it talks about like influencers, how there's something interesting there where, like, the forms of capitalism that have made someone like that Russian oligarch very wealthy have been dried up because people like him have taken every resource possible, and there's nothing left for the generation that is having to sell themselves basically with an online presence to make money or get freebies and things like that. And you could even look at that as like the point of view of like that generational divide where, like, baby boomers and Gen Xers and things like that kind of had more opportunities or easier opportunities than millennials and generations, the generation that's now Generation Z. And so, like, it's interesting even just with that. It's like, how do you make money when, like, those resources that the past generation have depleted?
Yep. I don't know.
It's bummer.
A lot of these,
like, we're not going to become fashion models that are influencers, so
never say never, Eric. Never say never. Someday someone will listen to this dumb show we do and go, Butterfinger, call us. You'll go, we want to give you a pile of money to be the Butterfinger movie.
The Butterfinger Boys?
The Butterfinger movie podcast or some shit like that. And we'll sell out. We will.
Yeah.
Because that's what people do.
If the price is right.
If this movie shows you anything, it's like everyone's in it for themselves, and they'll, even in a situation where you should all help each other, you still won't be socialist. You'll still sell whatever you can.
I think it's just it's so ingrained in us that it's like, that struggle to be on top or maintain a position of power and be willing to demoralize not only yourself and others to stay there or do well, even in survival situations. Like,
we'll be petty, know, if the tables turned and we had power over some rich asshole, I'd be petty probably too. So
especially with, like, if you've been just dumped on for years and years and years, it's understandable.
Absolutely. And then they come crawling to you asking for something, I'd go, fuck you, dude.
Yeah, or it comes with a price.
Yeah, exactly.
No pretzels for you.
I really liked the movie quite a bit, and I like Östlund as a filmmaker to the point where I'm like, I will be eagerly anticipating anything that he does. I'm gonna give the movie a 4. I really liked it.
Yeah, I'm between a 3.5 and a 4, but I'm mostly positive on it, and it's just I'm thinking, like, the reason why I said 3.5 is because I don't think it's as good as Force Majeure or The Square. I think those two movies are better, and I do think it's a little long, and I do also think that, like I mentioned with the vignette style, he is copying one of his idols even more, Roy Andersson, who does a lot of kind of the same thing, but it's even more kind of abstract in its structure and more specific to Swedish history and culture and less colorful in its design. But I'll give it a 4 because, again, I had a good time with it. I think it's well made. I think he is a very funny guy. It is an extremely funny movie, and if you like the comedy, which we both did, it works well.
But again, I could see someone not vibing with his sense of humor.
And I feel like I'm excited for his next film, but it almost kind of sounds like it's going to take a similar...
Do we know what it is?
Yeah, it's the entertainment system isn't working, which is basically the same thing, but on a plane.
Oh, right. Yeah, you mentioned that.
Woody Harrelson's going to be in it as well. Yeah, because the entertainment system's not working.
It's like a super long flight or something, isn't it? Like an 18-hour flight.
Yeah, probably to like
that.
New Zealand or something from the U.S. or...
But then wouldn't people have like loaded their iPhones or their computers?
It might be a period piece.
Oh, maybe. Oh, yeah. You're making a good point.
But even if it isn't, but maybe it'll be something about like our dependency on, instant gratification and technology kind of being the thing that kind of makes us submissive, in a way.
Cool. Thank you all for listening. We really do appreciate it. You can check out all of the reviews we've done right here on Untitled Movie Reviews or on YouTube at Untitled Movie Podcast. We have reviews out for what have we
Weird, Empire of Light, The Banshees of Inisherin, The Fablemans, Glass Onion,
The Swimmers, and more. As you can tell, Eric and I,
we're tired, man.
Our brains are starting to turn to mush. But I think, we still have cohesive conversations, sort of. We really do appreciate you guys listening. One-stop shop for everything. Head over to Letterboxd, which is Untitled_movies. And then you can check out more of my work right now on oh my god,
Family Feud Canada.
I knew that.
Jesus, man,
I was
come
gonna
on.
say on CBC, which it is on CBC and CBC Gem, but I was a writer on season 4 of Family Feud Canada, which is airing now Monday through Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Check that out and follow me on all those social medias at Matt Rohrbeck.
And I'm Eric Martin. You can find more of my video reviews on rogerstv.com/cinemascene and on the social medias at EM6211.
Until next time,
Matt and Eric, just a couple of H&M models.
we are happy boys. Bye.